Okay guys, welcome back. Now we discuss this very important topic, that is sustainability of National Food Security Act and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana merger. So in this particular article we will be discussing, we know that the government of India has merged these two food security programs. Okay. But what are these individually, we will see. Okay. What is National Food Security Act, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana? The government was providing these two both to the people of India. Around 81 crore people in India, they were being benefited by both of these food security schemes. Now, National Food Security Act was already in place since 2013, in which people are getting subsidized food grains like rice at the rate of rupees 3 rupees per kilo, wheat at the rate of rupees 2 rupees per kilo, and other coarse cereals or other coarse grains at the rate of 1 rupees per kilo. But when COVID came in 2020, so from April 2020 onwards, over and above these, I would say, subsidized food grains, 5 kg of free ration, wheat and rice, coarse grains are not there, but 5 kg of wheat and rice were being, allocated extra free of cost to the poor people, the eligible beneficiaries. And if I talk about the eligible beneficiaries, there are 81 crore eligible beneficiaries in India. So the people were getting access to subsidized ration under National Food Security Act and free ration also. So now what the government has done, the government had been thinking about, whether to stop Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, which was started during COVID, and resort to National Food Security Act only, as the norm was before 2020, because it was financially very much straining on the government. The fiscal deficit went up. Although the government is giving it free of cost, but the government is not procuring it free. Government is paying for procurements. So the government decided that we merge this, we end Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, and under National Food Security Act, if we were taking 3 rupees kilo rice, 2 rupees kilo for, I would say, wheat, and 1 rupees kilo for coarse grains or coarse cereals, we will give that allotment free of cost to the people. Means the free component from Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana has been taken, and this from National Food Security Act is there, rice, wheat and coarse grains. So for 1 year from now, it will be provided free of cost under National Food Security Act. The Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana has been finished. This is the basic, I would say, theme. But yes, we will be discussing about the details of both the schemes. We will be discussing further what are the implications, who have criticized this particular move of the government and who have said that the government has done this correct. Merging them is correct, and on the other hand we will be discussing that those people who are saying that status quo should be achieved, like National Food Security Act ही रहना चाहिए था, means that only should prevail, that the norm was before April 2020, and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana should be scrapped off totally. Okay. So we will be discussing this. So this is the move, and the union government basically said that it would provide free food grains to beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act 2013. Earlier यहाँ पे 3 rupees, 2 rupees and 1 rupees kg मिल रहा था. From here in National Food Security Act, food grains will be provided free of cost for a year beginning January 1, 2023. It has, however, discontinued the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana launched in April 2020 amid COVID-19. Now, continuing this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana would, however, save the government rupees 15,000 crore a month and about 1.8 lakh crore a year. This is a substantial amount for the government, and this amount had been invested by the government for Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Did this benefit? Yes, this did benefit. Now there was a report in July, when in July also we discussed that report. In July 2022 there was a report by United Nations Development Program, and that report was all about how inflation all over the world has impacted the poor, and how inflation all over the world has enabled poor to fall into the poverty line back again, who just came out or who were just above the poverty line, and due to inflation they came below the poverty line. And assessment in countries all over the world was done by UNDP, and it was found that in India, due to inflation, poverty increased 0%. If the poverty line is kept at $1.9 a day by World Bank. If that poverty line is increased to $3.3 a day, then 0.01% or 0.02% of the people came below poverty line. Now, if that poverty line is increased to $5.5 a day, then also below 1%, population came below poverty line in India. But overall, the standard set presently is $1.9 a day by World Bank. According to that standard, zero population came below poverty line due to inflation. And the reason cited was these two schemes basically, where people were getting 5 kg of free food grains and 5 kg of food grains at subsidized prices under National Food Security Act, and the free grains Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So this was basically the impact. Now about Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, it is a food security and a welfare scheme which was announced by the central government in March 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was applicable from April 2020. It is part of the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package to help poor fight the battle against COVID-19. Objective is to feed the poorest citizens of India by providing food grains through the public distribution system to all priority households, ration card holders and those identified by the Antyodaya Anna Yojana scheme. Implementing agency, Department of Food and Public Distribution, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution in India. The salient features: more than 80 crore beneficiaries. I told you that 81 crore beneficiaries were there roughly. They would be provided 5 kg free wheat or rice per person per month. Now here coarse grains are not included, as they are included in National Food Security Act. Only rice and wheat will be there, and this is in addition to the 5 kg food grains already provided to the beneficiaries under National Food Security Act. Here these 5 kg of food grains, 3 rupees for rice, 2 rupees for wheat and 1 rupees for coarse grains. They have to pay this, and in addition to these 5 kg, this 5 kg is provided free of cost under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. The NFSA 2013 legally entitled 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population to receive subsidized food grains under targeted public distribution scheme. It is also known as the largest food security program in the world. Now achievements of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Basically, it in COVID-19 pandemic induced a lot of economic stress, particularly on the poor, and a lot of reverse migration started happening from the urban areas to the rural areas. Okay. So we needed to support them. So we started this in April-September 2020. That was the first phase, and it had been extended several times, with its 6th phase ending in September 2022. And in September 2022, the government was in a fix whether to end the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana or not, because COVID-19 has subsided abhi. Okay. So the government decided to end it or not, but the government again stretched it from September till December 2022. Okay, for these 3-4 months. And now the government has finally taken a decision to abolish it, but provide free food grains in National Food Security Act. By September 2022, the total expenditure was 3.4 lakh crore, Until phase 5, that is March 2022, the government had allocated 759 lakh metric tons of free food grains under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Even though the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly abated and economic activities are gathering momentum, this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana has ensured that no poor household goes to bed without food during this time of recovery. India has a lot of food grains. That is why India was able to do this. Now, about NFSA, if I talk about National Food Security Act, so basically the target is to distribute food, to enable food security through public distribution system and the target public distribution system. The act legally entitles 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population. Total in effective, it is 66% of the total population, means 2/3 of the population of India is getting benefited under National Food Security Act. So, 2/3 of the population therefore is covered under the act. A step towards women empowerment is also incorporated under the act. The eldest woman of the household of age 18 years or above is mandated to be the head of the household for the purpose of issuing of ration cards under the act. Means on the name of the eldest woman, the ration card will be issued. What happens in case of non-supply of food? If the government is able to not supply the allocated amount of food grains, that is 5 kgs, or to some categories of family it is 35 kgs per family per month. If the government fails to give that much food grains on that particular cost, that is 3 rupees, 2 rupees, 1 rupees under NFSA, what will happen then? In case of non-supply, the entitled quantities of food grains or meals to entitled persons under NFSA should be there. Such persons shall be entitled to receive such food security allowance from the concerned state government to be paid to each person. Means if food grains are not available, then this much allowance will be given. Responsibilities under NFSA: joint responsibility of center and state governments. While the center is responsible for allocation of required food grains to states' UTs, and this the central government does through Food Corporation of India. The state UTs are responsible for effective implementation of the act. Means the central government will give the food grains. Ki in your state these many people are eligible beneficiaries and this is the food grains allocation for them. Now the state governments take the food grains allocation and from there it is their responsibility to allocate it to the end user. That is why both of them are there. Then the work of identification of eligible households is to be done by the states and UTs. The price of food grains and the beneficiaries, basically I have been mentioning it multiple times. I have mentioned it: rice at 3 rupees, wheat at 2 rupees and coarse grains at 1 rupees per kg. The term eligible households, which people or which households are eligible for this particular scheme, like we talked about that 75% of rural population is eligible, 50% of urban population is eligible. In effect, in total or in all over India, 2/3 of the population is eligible to take food grains at these prices from the government. Now who are these people? We will see. Basically there are two categories of people. First is priority households and families covered by the Antyodaya Anna Yojana. The two categories are these. Priority households are entitled to receive 5 kg of food grains per person per month at this price, whereas Antyodaya households, Antyodaya Anna households means these are poorest of the poor, they are entitled to receive 35 kg per month per family, per household, this much food grains at this rupees. Now under schedule 1 of the act, these subsidized prices were fixed for a period of 3 years from the date of commencement of the act. The act commenced in the year 2013, but yes, there have been no revisions till date of the prices. Now special focus on women and children. It provides meals to pregnant women and an additional outlay of rupees 6,000 if there is a pregnant or lactating mother in a family is given, and for children up to 14 years of age will be entitled to nutritious meals as per prescribed by nutritional standards, and the midday meal scheme in which the children are served hot cooked meals in schools. They are the midday meal scheme is also synced or linked with the National Food Security Act. Now, let's come to the, I would say, main issue, that is why they have been merged. Obviously, it was fiscally draining for the government, means there was a lot of fiscal pressure, a lot of expenditure, 3.40 lakh crore till September we already saw. So, it had constraints on the fiscal deficit of the government. Apart from it, we have buffer stocks. Buffer stocks means those food grains which we are not using in regular, but we are storing them for emergency usages, for emergency purposes. So, that buffer stock started to come down. So, we had to manage that also. Okay. So, we will see first why they have been merged. First of all, fiscal deficit of 6.4% of rupees 16.61 lakh crore rupees was witnessed in the budget of 2022, and we have kept this target to 3%. This is way beyond the target of fiscal deficit. In its monthly report, the Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance cited adverse financial position. This is September I am talking about. Okay, in September this report was released, and the government said that the fiscal health is not so great of the government, and reason cited was the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Apart from it, fertilizer subsidy burden is also too much on the government. Then reintroduction of subsidy on cooking gas, again expenditure. Reduction of excise duty on petrol and diesel, means less income is coming to the government. So, the government cited these reasons that the fiscal health is not so good. Expenditure is way more as compared to the incomes. Expenditure is increasing and the incomes are decreasing. So, this fiscal deficit is widening. So, we need to take care of it. Apart from it, the lower food grain stocks, as on November 30, the combined stock of rice 115.42 lakh metric ton and wheat was 190.27 lakh metric ton was at 305.69 lakh metric ton. This was lower than the figure of 591.56 lakh metric ton. Means the buffer stock from 591 lakh metric ton has dropped to 305 metric ton, which was basically concerning for the government. And this 591.56 lakh metric ton was rice and wheat combined, yes. So, from 591 it has come down to 305, which is concerning for the government. Now, arguments in favor of the government's move, basically these arguments are supporting the merger, whereas on the other hand we will be studying about arguments against, and those against arguments we will be studying about those people who are saying that ठीक है abolish होना चाहिए था, that प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना should be abolished and free food grains under National Food Security Act should not be given. They should be charged 3 rupees, 2 rupees, 1 rupees as the norm was before 2020. Okay. So, we have to look at it from this viewpoint. So, enhanced savings, the government will save on I would say extra expenditure which the government did. Okay. The government will save at least $20 billion over the next 12 months by ending Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Okay. Or 1.8 lakh crore rupees which we saw in the beginning. Okay. In every month we will be saving 15,000 crores. Next is alleviate inflation concerns. Now, see, inflation happens due to supply demand mismatch. Okay. And the government's buffer stock is reducing. So, government is having less supply of wheat, and when there is less wheat, then on rice basically the prices will go up. Okay. So, inflation will be controlled if the buffer stocks keep on swelling again, come back to its normal position. Okay. If this happens, then inflation will be maintained. Whenever the government feels that there is lack of supply of wheat in the market, it releases wheat so that the supply demand situation is maintained. Then depletion of buffer to ease. Okay. A monthly ration of 10 kg 5 kg each under NFSA and PMGKAY for 81.35 crore persons translates into 100 million tons or over a third of India's total cereal production. Now, termination of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana has become inevitable as buffer stocks, both wheat and rice, have depleted considerably, and in the last 1 year 50% and 45% respectively depletion has been witnessed. So, this cancellation of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana will ease the buffer stocks in the country. Now, arguments against the move, those people who are saying that free food grains should not be given under National Food Security Act also. They are saying that the move which the government has taken is fiscally unsustainable. The government was worried about its fiscal deficit. Now the government will be worried about its fiscal deficit even after the cancellation of or even after the discontinuance of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, because the government now under National Food Security Act is providing free food grains. It should not be provided free. Then unviable post pandemic plan of the government. They say that it is unviable plan and it is basically kind of a populist measure in which the government wants to take advantage of or wants to create this vote bank for itself. So, it is basically unviable, politically unviable also, because the other political parties, they are at the receiving end, because the poor people, they will only praise the present government. Implications for agricultural policy. This announcement will have repercussions for overall agricultural policy as government will be more constrained as far as raising the minimum support prices. Minimum support prices is basically the price at which the government procures food grains. Now, if the government is giving it for free, so MSP will not be given or MSP will not be raised up to that level, because the government will have to give that money, but the government on the other hand is giving that food grains free of cost to the people. The government will want keep it procures at the lowest possible price. That is why agriculturally also it is not I would say viable. So, these are both the arguments in favor and against of that particular move. Okay. Now, we come to the next piece of news, that is Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. The Prime Minister has chaired the annual general meeting of Nehru Memorial Museum and Library Society, where he emphasized on encouraging research, scholarship among the youth and making history more appealing. Now, the Prime Minister also discussed ways to make PM Sangrahalaya. Prime Minister Sangrahalaya is just in, I would say, NMML building only. It is there near the India Gate of India, and Pradhan Mantri Sangrahalaya is a building in that premises only, which houses the contribution of all the Prime Ministers of India, like from when till when, who was the Prime Minister and what were his contributions in nation building. All these are there in PM Sangrahalaya, which is there in Nehru Memorial Museum and Library premises only. Now, about this NMML, we talk about it. The Nehru Memorial Museum and Library is an autonomous institution under Ministry of Culture, Government of India. It was established in 1964 in the memory of first Prime Minister of India, that is Pradhan Mantri Jawaharlal Nehru. It is located in Teen Murti House, Delhi, the official residence of the first PM. Now, administration. The Prime Minister of India is the President of NMML. Whoever becomes the Prime Minister, he becomes the President of NMML. NMML Society is responsible for all key decisions regarding functioning of the memorial. Units, it has 4 major constituents, namely Memorial Museum, it is there, which houses all the artifacts, all the, I would say, photos, pictures and all which the Prime Minister Nehru received from his foreign visits and all. Then Library on Modern India. This library is considered one of the, I would say, richest source of books in India, one of the richest libraries in India, which has a lot of books there. Then Center for Contemporary Studies related to international relations and all these are there, and Nehru Planetarium, basically which is again a kind of I would say a tourist spot where people go and visit and read about the life of Jawaharlal Nehru over there. So this is there. Next comes the delimitation of constituencies. On 27th December 2022, the Election Commission of India basically started or began the delimitation of assembly and parliamentary constituencies in Assam by using the census data of 2001 for readjustment of seats. 2001's census data is being used, not 2011's. We will see abhi. The commission said a ban has been put in place effectively from January 1, 2023 onwards, and this ban is on the creation of new administrative units in the state. New administrative units means districts. Basically, formation of new districts, readjustment of district boundaries is under the ambit of state government. So, whenever delimitation exercise is going on, the state governments cannot, alter the boundaries, of administrative units over there. So, but the Assam government, they were one step ahead. Before this, a day before the ban came into effect, the Assam government approved the merger of 4 districts with the districts they had been carved out of earlier. Now, in Assam earlier there were 35 districts, now it has the number of districts in Assam are 31. On the day before that, because the Assam government knew that we will not be able to do this particular exercise once this delimitation exercise begins. Now, what is delimitation? We need to understand this. According to Election Commission, the delimitation is defined as the act or process of fixing limits or boundaries of territorial constituencies in a country or a province having a legislative body. Now, when we started our political journey in 1950, at that time the constituencies were drawn in such a way that 10 lakh people, per 10 lakh people there will be one representative in the Lok Sabha, means 1 MP per 10 lakh people. This was the basic maths at that time. But our population went on increasing. The number of seats also increased in the Lok Sabha. But we saw that the population will keep on increasing indefinitely, because 1971 to 2001 population grew rapidly. That was very rapid growth of population in these years. Then we saw that we cannot increase the number of seats in the parliament in such proportion so that this ratio 10 lakh per seat is maintained. So we passed the bill, Constitutional Amendment Act, and according to that we froze that until 2026 we are not increasing number of seats in the parliament. The number of seats will remain fixed. In 2026 we will see after that. Until then, the Election Commission, if it has to do delimitations, means if it has to alter the boundaries in any state for parliamentary constituencies or for state legislative assemblies, it can do, but number of seats will not increase. Number of seats will remain the same. The delimitations can be done in such a way that every, I would say, seat, let's suppose in Delhi there are 7 constituencies for Lok Sabha. So in each constituency roughly there will be same amount of voters per representative. Just imagining 20 lakh voters per constituency. So in every constituency, in every of these 7 constituencies, there will be 20 lakh voters. So that boundaries has to be decided by the Election Commission. This exercise is delimitation. And however, the constituencies are different for state legislative assemblies. In state legislative assemblies, there are 70 constituencies. For parliament, means for Lok Sabha, there are 7 constituencies. For legislative assemblies of Delhi, there are 70 seats, 70 constituent assemblies or constituencies. So there the math is different, but yes, one thing is common, that in all the 70 there will be equal, I would say, distribution of population, so that every candidate who is standing for an election gets represented by an equal amount of people. So this is happening. Number of seats are not increasing until 2026, but yes, boundaries are being altered so that the representation remains uniform in that state. Representation for Lok Sabha, representation for legislative assemblies also. Okay. So this is basically the objective of delimitation. In the Indian context, the exercise of redrawing the boundaries of Lok Sabha and legislative assembly constituencies in a region is known as delimitation. In this process, a number of seats allocated to particular state in Lok Sabha or in legislative assembly may vary. For example, Delhi, a union territory with legislative assembly, has 7 Lok Sabha constituencies, while legislative assembly it has 70 constituencies. Okay. Why is it important? So that there is uniform representation. The basic key is that uniform representation will enable, better, I would say, confidence among the voters, confidence among the people who are contesting. It creates a level playing ground for all the people who are contesting elections. Now, constitutional provisions for delimitation. Is it mentioned in the constitution? Yes, it is mentioned in the constitution. Article 82 and Article 170 of the constitution empowers the parliament to readjust allocation of seats in the Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies of the states respectively after every census. Means Article 170 empowers the assemblies, legislative assemblies of the state. Article 82 empowers the Lok Sabha to readjust the allocation of seats after every census. Now, accordingly, Parliament enacted Delimitation Commission Act, and an independent high-powered panel known as Delimitation Commission is constituted to carry out the exercise of delimitation. The Parliament has enacted Delimitation Commission Acts in 1952 after the 1951 census, 1962 after 1961 census, 1972 after 1971 census, and 2002 after 2001 census. There were no Delimitation Commissions Act after the 1981 and 1991 census, because during this period population growth was massive, it was exponential. So the government thought that it was better not to form any delimitation commission and the number of seats remain the same. But in 2002 it was said that we will not increase the number of seats, but what we can do is we can create uniform representation by redrawing or by altering the boundaries of various constituencies. Now, the present delimitation constituencies have been done on the basis of 2001 census data under the provisions of Delimitation Commission Act of 2002. The next delimitation commission will be set up after 2026. Tab tak the seats have been frozen in all the legislative assemblies of the country, whether Lok Sabha or state legislative assemblies. Further, Article 330 and Article 332 of the Constitution provide for refixing the number of seats reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the Lok Sabha and the legislative assemblies of the states on the basis of 2001 census, because reservation is being given to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes on the basis of their population, and accordingly their population is viewed in 2001 census. So that is basically that. Now about the Delimitation Commission. What is this commission all about? Who decides on the boundaries? Is a high powered committee entrusted with the task of drawing and redrawing boundaries of different constituencies for state assembly and Lok Sabha elections. It is appointed by the president and works in collaboration with Election Commission. The commission consists of a retired or working Supreme Court judge as the chairperson, election commissioner, concerned state election commissioners. The commission's orders, means the Delimitation Commission's orders, have the force of law and cannot be called in question before any court. Means you cannot appeal against the, I would say, decisions of this particular commission. The commission's orders are laid before the Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies of respective states. But these two legislative bodies, the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies, also cannot, alter the order. They can just discuss, but they cannot effect any modification in the order. They cannot do any modification. It is so powerful, the delimitation commission. So in UPSC prelims it can be asked, in mains also it can be asked. Okay. So you need to understand this from this viewpoint. Next, again very important news piece, the demonetization case verdict. Now demonetization came in 2016 when the legal tender of 500 rupees notes and 1000 rupees notes became, I would say, illegal or invalid. This move basically, why was it taken? We will be discussing that. What were the reasons behind it? What were the objectives which were anticipated by the government? Obviously black money was one, obviously counterfeit currency notes, means the fake currency notes, which were another, terror financing, which was another. All these were the motives of demonetization of 2016. Was it the first time the government was doing demonetization in India? The answer is no, plain and simple. We will discuss when and what kind of notes were demonetized by the government. Then we will also look into the reasons, or we will also look into the arguments which had been raised by the petitioners who wanted to challenge the demonetization act of the government. What were they saying? Okay. And what did the court say? What did the judges say in this verdict? 4 judges in favor of demonetization, means they said that the government's move was not illegal, it was legal. 1 judge, however, restrained and said that this move should not have been taken by the government. Okay, so we will be studying about that. Now, what is demonetization? Is the process through which a nation's economic unit of exchange, that is currency notes, these are economic units of exchange, loses its legally enforceable validity. It is a drastic intervention into the economy that involves removing the legal tender status of a currency. It arises whenever the official currency is changed. The existing kind or types of currency are withdrawn through circulation and supplanted with new currencies. This happens, this is basically demonetization. Demonetizations in India in the past: 1946, RBI demonetized rupees 1000 and 10,000 rupee notes. This was the first demonetization known. In 1978, the government demonetized 1000, 5000 and 10,000 rupee notes in order to curb menace of black money. In 2016, 500 and 1000 rupees notes were demonetized for tackling black money, terror financing, tackling corruption. Why countries opt for demonetization? Basically to address issues like hyperinflation. Now, this happened in Zimbabwe. Hyperinflation happened, and inflation happens with increased money supply, increased circulation of money in the economy. Now, what government can do to tackle this? Government can cancel the legal tender of that particular currency which is there in circulation and issue new currencies according to itself. So, that will tackle that hyperinflation situation. To eliminate negative situations or actions like counterfeit currency, terror and tax fraud. Now, this counterfeit currency, a lot of, I would say, criminal groups, cartels, they were involved into this printing of fake notes, and particularly across the border from Pakistan, from Nepal, from Bangladesh, a lot of people were doing it and they were infusing this in the economy. This caused a lot of inflation because the money in circulation grew, and it was believed that many of the terrorist groups were also involved into printing of counterfeit currency notes. A lot of black money, a lot of money which was being given to the terrorist organizations for their, I would say, sustenance or for their functioning. That was high value currency notes like 1000 rupees, 500 rupees. So we banned them all. So this was a big blow to terror financing, to the terrorist organizations in the AFPAC region particularly. To introduce a new monetary system in some circumstances, demonetization is done. Let's suppose in Croatia we discussed that euro will replace their domestic currency because it has become part of Eurozone. So, they will go for demonetizing their own currency. It may go for demonetization in phases or at once, it is up to them. Okay. To facilitate trade and access to markets, we demonetize a currency, we introduce new currency. To push informal economic activity into more transparency. So, these are the reasons why demonetizations are opted. Now, why was demonetization challenged? What were the petitioners saying? 58 petitions were filed challenging the Demonetization Act, and these petitions contended that procedure prescribed in section 26(2) of RBI Act 1934 was not followed. Now, what is section 26(2) of the RBI Act? Section 26(2) of the RBI says that on recommendation of the Central Board of the RBI, the central government may declare that any series of banknotes of any denomination shall cease to be a legal tender. Now, petitioners are saying that the word any which is being used would have to be given a restricted meaning, means the RBI has power only to recommend a particular series of notes. It does not have the powers to demonetize all series of a particular denomination. Means RBI could have said that the notes which are printed after 2010, they can be demonetized. Notes which are printed, 500 rupees notes which are printed after 2012 should be demonetized, before 2012 should stay. Things like these. But all notes of 500 rupees are demonetized, all notes of 1000 rupees are demonetized. This is something which the petitioners are saying that it should not be there. They also argued that demonetization notification is liable to be struck down applying the test of proportionality. Now, what is this test of proportionality? There are 4 ingredients of the proportionality test to be satisfied. Legitimate purpose, whatever the act, there should be a legitimate purpose of that act. Rational connection with the purpose should be there should be logic behind that. Necessity should be evaluated or necessity should be shown, whether the action taken is proportional or balanced. This should be achieved. If these 4 are being achieved, then we will say that that particular action of the government has met the proportionality test. The petitioners are saying that this particular action of the government of demonetizing the notes have not met the proportionality test. Okay. They have also contended that the entire decision making process was flawed in law, as the proposal should have been emanated from RBI board, not from the center. They say that the center told RBI to demonetize, send us a proposal for demonetizing, but for demonetization proposal should come from the banks to the government. The petitioners are saying this. The verdict of the Supreme Court, a 4-1 judgment is there, means 4 judges said in favor of the government, 1 judge was against it, and it was valid and satisfied the test of proportionality, the judges said. The court held that the central government's decision was after RBI board's approval, which shows inbuilt safeguard against center's power. The court is saying ki, center had taken after the approval of proposal of RBI. Now, the court is silent, everyone is silent on the fact that the government prior to that should have told the RBI that we want to demonetize, send us a proposal. On that everyone is silent. Okay. Maybe the government might have told, maybe the government might not have told, the proposal might have come from RBI itself. The center is required to take action after the consultation with the central board, and there is an inbuilt safeguard. Decision making process cannot be faulted merely because the proposal emanated from the center. So, court is saying even if the proposal had come from the center to the RBI that send us a proposal, we want to demonetize, on that basis also solely we cannot term demonetization as illegal. The hardships faced by the citizens, because a lot of hardships were faced during that time 6 years ago, cannot be the ground to reverse the decision, because we are seeing the larger picture. Larger picture is we had to tackle black money, we had to tackle terror funding, we had to tackle counterfeit currency in circulation. That has to be looked in as well. Only if we talk about the hardships of the people, on that basis solely we cannot term it illegal. On creating a fresh window for return of demonetized currency, basically there were some people who were arguing that the government or the banks should open a fresh window so that we can exchange our old currency notes with the new ones now. But the court said that it does not have any expertise on that issue. Government and RBI will decide on that. Now this was basically the verdict which I just discussed. We will discuss about the minority verdict. Demonetization move is exercise of power by the union government contrary to law and vitiated under the RBI Act. Actually, the Justice B.B. Nagaratha is saying that RBI should have the sole power, but the power was concentrated, exercise of power was done by the government. Carried out in 24 hours, so central bank had no time to consider it. Okay. So, Parliament, which is at the center of our democracy, cannot be left aloof. The decision was taken without bringing or without taking Parliament into loop. Okay. So, this was her saying. Around 98% of value of balanced currency reported to have been exchanged. So, measure may not have been as effective as it was hoped to be. Basically, it was targeted that 100% of the currency will be exchanged. This use of phrases such as desired by the center in communication to RBI governor demonstrates that there was no independent application of mind by the bank. So, this was her stand, but yes, demonetization was done. It created a lot of problems for the public. It had a big blow on terror financing, no doubt. It had a big blow on black money in circulation as well. And the judgment has been upheld by the Supreme Court. So, the debate is settled as of now, and the demonetization case is in the favor of the government. Okay. Now, next piece of news is yo-yo test and DEXA scan. Basically, the BCCI very recently has announced the reintroduction of yo-yo test and the DEXA scans for the purpose of selection to the national team of cricket. Now, why did this yo-yo test and DEXA scan? Basically, yo-yo test was very much into, I would say, into trend when Virat Kohli was holding the captaincy of Team India. And at that time, the players were expected to be extremely fit and pass the yo-yo test. Whoever is passing the yo-yo test will be part of the team. If you are not able to pass that test, you will not be part of that team. After that, I think in 2019 or 2020, maybe 2020, BCCI said that we are as of now scrapping the yo-yo test criteria for becoming part of the team. But now they have again said that yo-yo test you will have to pass and you will have to go through the DEXA scans also to be part of the national team. Now, why the government or why the BCCI has taken this move? Because a lot of players, due to their, I would say, not exactly lack of fitness, but yes, one of the factors was lack of fitness. Due to their lack of fitness, they injured themselves, and due to those injuries they missed various crucial tournaments like T20 World Cups and all. So, BCCI has made it mandatory that you have to be that much fit. If you want to be part of national team, you have to be that much fit so that you can pass the yo-yo test. If you are able to pass it, then only you will be there in the national team. And we do not want any injuries, or we do not want injuries at least due to your fitness levels, due to your decreased fitness levels. Now, the yo-yo test, what is it? We will discuss. It was first introduced in the Indian cricket team during Virat Kohli's fitness focused captaincy reign, developed by Danish football physiologist Jens Bangsbo. It is a maximal aerobic endurance fitness test involving running between markers placed 20 meters apart. Markers are placed 20 meters apart and you have to run between them, and with the passing time your speed should increase up to a certain level. Okay. And players are given scores on the basis of how many levels they are able to clear. Previously, The minimum score set by BCCI to pass the test was 17 and it was increased from 16.1. So presently it is 17 or it will be increased, it is yet to see, but yes, yo-yo test is basically running between two markers which are placed 20 meters apart, and with time your speed should increase, and they will judge that at till what time your speed keeps on increasing and after what time it starts decreasing. So you have to reach that score. The DEXA scan, the DEXA scans were recommended to the BCCI and National Cricket Academy as far back as 2011 because of a significant increase in players' workload with the introduction of T20 cricket, IPL and professionalization of the game. Through DEXA tests, trainers will be able to measure body fat, percentage, lean muscle mass, water content and bone density of the players. It helps to understand where the fat is and whether training methods are yielding the results or not. So all these will be covered under the DEXA scans. Now the 108th Indian Science Congress. PM Modi inaugurated the 108th Indian Science Congress being held in Nagpur via video conferencing. The focal theme of this year's ISC is Science and Technology for Sustainable Development with Women Empowerment. About ISC, Indian Science Congress is one of its kind event in the country which brings together the scientific communities on a platform for their interaction with students and the general public in matters related to science. The event is organized by Indian Science Congress Association, is an independent body functioning within the support of Department of Science and Technology in basically it is a department under Government of India in the central government. Basically Government of India gives funds to ISCA for conducting this event, that is it, nothing more than that. Dubbed as the largest gathering of scientists and students in the country, the Science Congress is an annual 5-day event from January 3 to 7. Every year from January 3rd to 7 this gets conducted. The first session of Indian National Congress was held in 1914 at the premises of Asiatic Society in Calcutta. Now PM's speech highlights. He said that he highlighted India's achievements, in which he said that when it comes to the number of PhD research works and startup ecosystems, India is among top 3 countries now. Country is now ranked at 40th on Global Innovation Index 2022, and 2021 our rank was 81. So from 81 we directly jumped on to 40. That was a big achievement for us. He underlined the scientific development should ultimately make the country Atmanirbhar and less dependent on other countries. Need to increase women's participation. While highlighting the importance of women's involvement in scientific research, PM Modi said that increasing participation of women is a reflection of progress of the society and science. Okay, and why increased participation of women? Because women will be able to find solutions to those kind of problems which are faced by women at large in the entire country. Women face a lot of societal problems. Okay. So women participation in science can find a solution to those problems. Today the country's thinking is not only that women should be empowered through science, but science should also be empowered with the participation of women. He pointed out that women's participation in extramural research has doubled over the last 8 years, and India has been given the opportunity to preside over G20. Women-led development is a major agenda in G20 as well. Then science must come out of the lab and reach the land. There is no point of scientific research which is limited to labs only. It should be out there in the public, it should impact the maximum people, it should impact the lives of maximum people, it should better the lives of maximum amount of people. The efforts of science can bear fruit only when they go from labs to land. With 2023 being declared as International Year of Millets, India's millets and their use should be further improved with the use of science. He also urged the scientific community to work towards reducing post-harvest losses with the help of biotechnology. Need to focus on energy innovation. Obviously, energy is one such key where India is lacking, and in 2021 we declared the National Hydrogen Mission, in which we plan to create green hydrogen. We plan to be a hub of green hydrogen, and it can only be possible with scientific innovations, because generating green hydrogen is not a big task, but storing that green hydrogen, transporting that green hydrogen, because it is highly inflammable, is a big task, and there scientific innovations or involvement of science will play a crucial role. So this, he said that this is going to be the key, and National Hydrogen Mission is going to be successful, and India is going to be a hub of green hydrogen only if scientific community contributes its bit in solving the, I would say, challenges in the energy sector. Now, termites and global warming. Now, there was a recent study published in Science. The earth gets warmer, the termites will rapidly spread across the world. This could in turn lead to further rise in global temperatures. How spreading of termites will lead to rise in global temperatures? Because this is important. Why? Because UPSC can give these out of the box statements in options, and you will be like, ye to nahi ho sakta, this cannot happen. But yes, there has been a study, and it has found that termites decompose wood at a much higher rate in warmer conditions. For every 10 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, their decomposition activity goes up by almost 7 times. Now, according to the study, termites released carbon from dead wood in the form of carbon dioxide and methane, two of the most important greenhouse gases which cause global warming. Now, there are around 3000 species of termites across the world, including the ones that consume plant material and even soil. However, the most famous are the wood eating termites. Another research by scientists at the University of Florida found that 2 Floridian varieties of termites were able to interbreed during warmer winters and hybridize into a newly highly destructive super termites. So, when the temperature increases, their activity increases, they spread, they will feed upon wood, and while decomposing wood, they will release gases, greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane, and that is why with increasing temperature their activity will increase, and their activity will further increase temperatures. So, a vicious cycle is or will be created. Next is microplastics. Basically, scientists from South Korea have recently developed a new water purification system that can quickly and effectively filter out microplastics. But what you need to understand, that what are microplastics? Are tiny bits of various types of plastics found in the environment. How tiny? Basically, we will see abhi. The name is used to differentiate them from macroplastics such as bottles and bags made of plastics. Those are macroplastics, big plastic, bottles, bags and all. But microplastics, there is no universal agreement on the size that fits this bill, or that fits the definition. But the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the European Chemical Agency define microplastics as less than 5 mm in length. If any plastic is less than 5 mm in length, it will be termed as microplastic, and above 5 mm in length, macroplastic. Now, types of microplastics. There are 2 categories of microplastics, primary and secondary. Primary microplastics are tiny particles designed for commercial use such as cosmetics, as well as microfibers shed from clothing and other textiles such as fishing nets. The secondary microplastics are particles that result from the breakdown of larger plastic items such as water bottles. This breakdown is caused by exposure to environmental factors, mainly the sun's radiation and ocean waves. When they break down, that is secondary. Primary microplastics are being used directly by the humans. Next is color coded warnings. Recently, India's Meteorological Department issued an orange alert for Delhi NCR region. Why? In Delhi, the day temperature settled several notches below normal, the minimum temperature that was 4.4 degrees Celsius, the season's lowest and making the national capital colder than hill stations like Dharamshala, Nainital, Dehradun, etc. These are issued by the IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, for explaining the severity of the weather phenomena, and these alerts are also issued during floods depending on the amount of water rising above the land, and these warnings are updated daily. Now, the color coded warnings, if we see, first is green, means all is well, no advisory is issued, you don't need to take care, or you don't need to be cautious, all is well. Second, yellow, be aware. Yellow indicates severely bad weather spanning several days. It also suggests that weather could change for worse, disrupting day-to-day activities. Next is orange, or be prepared. The orange alert is issued as a warning of extremely bad weather with the potential of disruption in commute, with road and rail closures and interruption of power supply also. And red is take action, when extremely bad weather conditions are certainly going to disrupt travel and power and have significant risks to life, the red alert is issued. Presently, abhi for Delhi, it was the orange alert which was issued. This is, the orange alert is issued when a warning of extremely bad weather with the potential of harming. Now about IMD, it is the main agency responsible for meteorological observations, weather forecasting and seismology in India. Nodal ministry, Ministry of Earth Sciences, which takes care of IMD. It operates hundreds of observation stations across India and Antarctica. Regional offices are Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, Nagpur, Guwahati and New Delhi. It is also one of the 6 regional specialized meteorological centers of the World Meteorological Organizations. It has responsibility for forecasting, naming and disturbing or distributing warnings for tropical cyclones in the northern Indian Ocean region, including Malacca Straits, the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf. So, with respect to cyclones, it will be issuing warnings in those regions. And now we come to the last piece of news, that is the bind scheme. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs recently approved the proposal of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting regarding bind scheme at a cost of 2,539 crores up to 2025-26. It is a central sector scheme, means it will be formed by the center and implemented by using central government machinery, which provides financial support for the infrastructure development of Prasar Bharati. Now, Prasar Bharati comprises of All India Radio and Doordarshan. So, the infrastructure of these two will be developed. Now, about the scheme will enable public broadcaster to undertake a major upgradation of its facilities with better infrastructure, which will widen its reach, including the left wing extremist areas, border and strategic areas, and provide high quality content to the viewers. We were seeing that border area scheme, in which Vibrant Villages program, in which we had one of the component was कि through Doordarshan and through various, I would say, communication channels of the government, we have to provide information to the people living in border areas. So, information can be provided in a better way if infrastructure is good. Another major priority area of the scheme is development of high quality content for both domestic and international audiences, and ensuring the availability of diverse content to the viewers by upgradation of the capacity of DTH platforms. A purchase of OB vans, digital upgradation of DD and AIR studios to make them HD ready, high definition ready, will also be done as part of the project. The project for modernization and augmentation of broadcast infrastructure also has the potential to generate indirect employment by way of manufacturing and services. The scheme will increase coverage of AIR FM transmitters in the country to 66%, and geographical area and 80% of population from abhi 59% and 68% respectively. It also envisages free distribution of over 8 lakh DD free dish set top boxes to people living in remote tribal LWE and border areas. Okay. So that better viewership can be viewed, can be witnessed, and better dissemination of information can be there. So this basically ends today's class. We are meeting for a doubt session in 5 minutes from now. Okay. I will be meeting you there in the doubt session.